uzima. Tuungane sote tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika, chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
It is Man's TV Africa. You are watching us live wherever you are. It is Man's TV Africa. My name is Katom Kapsa, and of course in the studio is Hussein Baya to do the production. Hussein is in Kenya, and of course Man's TV Africa is having offices and studios in Uganda, Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, UK, and the US. We are growing every day, and I want to encourage you to please subscribe to Humanist TV Africa. Subscribe to Humanist TV Africa and be able to watch this and more of our shows. Today, we're talking about something very important: colonial relics, under the big banner of colonial relics, because we're talking about the 10 amazing facts about Africa. This is episode 15, call it part 15, where we are talking about colonial relics as sub-part 2 of colonial relics. Now, when we talk about relics of colonialists, who are the colonialists? Of course, in Africa, we know at least 7 countries in Europe shared us like a hot cake. Britain got the lion's share, followed by France. Then Italy got some. Then Belgium got some. Then, of course, Portuguese also got their share. They shared us. The Spaniards, they shared us. What happened when they left? They left us with their legacy, with their memories, with their workings, with their systems. I call them legacies. I also call them relics. Look at Africa the way it was. Was it even Africa? Or it was a geographical expression where Black people formed themselves, mixed with other people? They were Caucasians, they were Arabs in Africa, the so-called Africa today. But when they came here, what did they do? They gave us their own system. They gave us their own languages. In fact, they tell us that our languages are inferior and their languages are special. They are God sent. They tell us that our education is so inferior, their education is special. They basically demonize everything about us and glorify everything about them. That is colonialism. That is imperialism. Now, the relics of their works, what they did when they came to Africa, the way they divided us, because their target was to divide and rule. When people are united, you cannot defeat them. You cannot win them. They are united. You must find ways to divide them. What did they do? They divided Africa. They divided us along tribal lines. You find that someone has a tribal mate in Kenya and they're in Uganda. They have a tribal in Congo and they're in Uganda because they divided Africa into portions. They gave us a new meaning called countries. We never had countries. They defined us, they got our kingdoms, lumped us together without our consent. Without our consent. They said Baganda must coexist with Banyoro, with the Baruru, with the Lanese, with the Acholis. All of you must come together to form a country. Colonial relics is the topic I'm handling today. So they define our boundaries, they define our countries, they define our languages. They say our languages are inferior, they are the superior, so theirs must be the official languages. They demonize our cultures. Our cultures are inferior, our gods are inferior, their goals are superior, their cultures are superior, their education is superior. Everything about them was superior. Everything about our ancestors was inferior. Those were the colonists who came to Africa to rule us, to exploit, to divide, and conquer. Nothing else they did in Africa. They are going to talk about the good things they did. I will tell you the negative things they did. Colonial relics of imperialists in Africa. Let's look at what they did. What has the region done in Africa today? The region has divided Africans to the extent you can kill your father, you can kill your brother, you can kill your sister because of the religious differences. Today, there are African families that cannot marry between themselves because they are Muslims and these are Christians. The Christians will call the Muslims infidels. The Muslims will call the Christians pagans, infidels, kafirs, kafir, as they call it. Who brought that to Africa? Occupiers, the Arabs, imperialists, the colonizers. They come to Africa, they divide us, they give us a different identity altogether. In Africa, for the first time in Buganda, my kingdom, for the first time, we had what we called religious wars. For the first time ever in the history of Buganda kingdom, we had what we called religious wars, where a king was pitted against his subjects because they are of different religion. The Protestants are fighting Catholics. Imagine that in Africa. Protestants, the so-called Protestants from Canterbury, Europe, UK, fighting Roman Catholics all the way from France and Italy. They bring their confusion to Africa. They force Africans to begin fighting among each other. Let's look at these maps to explain this message of colonial relics, divisions, segregations, discrimination, lack of identity. Let's have a look at these maps as we are prepared for you and the information for you to see the message for today. Colonial relics, part 2. Now, as you can see in those images, let's have a look at the map there, the maps of Africa there, and we see what we're talking about now. Colonial relics there, we are talking about what the colonial governments left behind were new entities, they're called countries. They determined the size, the shape, the composition of states, ethnic identities, and the salient over ethnic differences, state societies, relationships, institutional designs, and inequality. This is what they brought us. Gave us their system of administration, gave us their way of thinking, gave us their kind of education. Everything was about them. And they demonized everything they found back in Africa. Now look, who occupied Africa? I've told you. The British, look at the map, they took the biggest share. The French, the German, the Portuguese, the Italian, the Belgian, the Spanish, and of course, a few countries, of course, Ethiopia was independent. Let us go ahead and see other features prepared for you now. In terms of languages, as a relic, of course, we see Afrikaners in the south. The French took a big portion of French West Africa. Arabic, one of the leading languages in Africa, 17% of the 1,300,000,000 people in Africa, 17% speak Arabic. English is another dominant language right there in Africa. And of course, traditional languages also take sway in Africa. Let's look at other maps by very fast. Other maps by. We look at other maps right there to show us what's happening in Africa. Let us look at other images. Other images very fast. Other images very, very fast there. Now, when you look at other images on the screen, other images on the screen, we see that the main languages in Africa, look at the main languages in Africa, and I will tell you that English, Arabic, French are the main languages in Africa, widely spoken in Africa. Widely spoken. It's a shame that we see languages such as Swahili having about 5%. Swahili having about 5%. Yet Swahili would have been a good language for all Africans. But we are all speaking English, we are all speaking French, and they want to speak Spanish, they want to speak Portuguese. What the hell went wrong with our languages? Yet Hausa is a good language. Yoruba can be good. Akan, Luganda, Swahili, these are our languages, but we don't want to speak them because we have been wired to think that the language of the colonizer is the best language. And we laugh at each other for making mistakes in these foreign languages. It's a shame. Now, look at this map here. I want to explain something about this map here now. These are the original kingdoms of Africa. I call it Kemet. Let us look at them. The original kingdoms they formed and destroyed. Now, we had the Umayyad Caliphate up north there. We had the Protenic Egypt, of course, that was more of the Greek. We had the kingdom of the Azem, the Aksum kingdom. We had, of course, the Nubians and others. Take me back to the kingdoms, just a minute, Baya. Yes. We had the kingdom of Ghana. The kingdom of Ghana was so big in Ghana, of course. We had the Songhai Empire. We had, of course, the Akanda Hausa right there. We had the Ethiopian kingdom, more of the Christian Ethiopians. And, of course, we had the Kitara Empire back in Uganda, if you want. We had the Congo kingdom. We had the Rwanda state. And we had the Ruba state. We had the Great Zimbabwe Empire. And, of course, these were the kingdoms we are talking about today, that these kingdoms were there and were destroyed. They were destroyed. What did we take on? We took on now a combination we called later on as countries. Let us look at other images by now. Other images by right there now. Yes. Now, when you look at this image here, why am I bringing it here? I want to show you how strong West African empires were. Talk about the Songhai Empire, which are the Hausas and others, the Fulani, the Akani. Talk about the Mali Empire, if you remember the richest man, Mansa Musa, and the Mali Empire and others, the Wolf, the Ghana Kingdom. Now, these are the empires that were so big in Africa, the Mali Empire, of course, and others, the Ghana, the Wolf, the Songhai, the kingdom of the Kangamba, and of course the Ethiopian rulers there. These were strong kingdoms, strong establishments that were even better organized than many chiefdoms, kingdoms in Europe by that time, but they were destroyed. And we took on everything from Europe we said was better for us. We took on their culture, their religions, their way of administration, everything we simply copied from them. And we worshipped whatever they gave us, and we dumped whatever was ours. Now, in terms of religion, this is very interesting. Look at this image, very interesting. On my left, I'm showing you that Christianity is the largest religion in Africa as I speak. It has 51%. Islam has 43%. Then Hinduism and native religions follow. I told you, Christianity has 51% of the followers of the population of Africa. 51% are Christians. The Muslims are about 43%. Now, look at this curve on the right-hand side. We say Jesus is still ahead of Muhammad. Yes, they have been fighting. Jesus on one side is fighting Muhammad in Africa, who is taking over. The graph is showing you that actually Jesus, Christians are taking over Muhammad. And graphically, it's a war. They are winning souls. They are winning believers. They are proud to call themselves, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim. They don't even know. They don't even know how these two religions actually destroyed Africa, destroyed our culture, destroyed our self-esteem, destroyed our identity. How these two religions destroyed Africa. They don't even know. Let us look at other images very fast. Yes. Now, when you look at this image right here, I'll beg for a minute to explain this. This image right there on the screen shows you one important thing: how religions have destroyed Africa. Give me a minute there, I'm going to be explaining right there. Now, when you look at Nigeria, for example, on your right, when you look at Nigeria on your left, there, tens of thousands in Nigeria have died in recent religious clashes in New Jos in Nigeria. Christians are being killed in Nigeria. Christians and Muslims are fighting in Nigeria. Why? Because of the religion. There have been religious extremism in Nigeria, in a country where in the north they are Muslims and in the south they are Christians. Now, Nigeria, as a case study, is being destroyed by religions brought by colonialists, occupiers, imperialists. The Arabs brought their Islam, the Europeans brought their Christianity. Now, in Nigeria, they are killing each other because of the religion that were brought by the imperialists and the invaders. Now, in Cameroon, for example, Christians want to see Muslims have less influence in Cameroon. But of course, in Cameroon, the idea is that Muslims actually have more influence in Cameroon, because 77% in those countries believe in a religion, So in Cameroon itself is a lot of trouble. Now go to Rwanda, for example. Go to Rwanda and see the confusion that was there during the genocide in 1994. That even the region played a role in the genocide. Go and check it. The region played a role in the genocide, that even priests would give up. People have gone to churches to seek refuge, to seek protection. They will give them up for killing because they don't belong to their religion or because they don't belong to their tribes, because they've been so much divided by these kind of beliefs. Look at Tanzania, for example. In Tanzania, most people actually are devil worshippers. They may be called Christians in the day. In the evening, they are more into their cultural traditions and all that. But still, this kind of isolation between Muslims in Tanzania are Christians in Tanzania. Of course, we see a lot of harm. Sometimes there are conflicts between Muslims and Christians, and sometimes traditionalists in Tanzania. These conflicts can also be seen in Tanzania. Now, in Mozambique, for example, it's a home of a few secularists in Mozambique. There are a few people who are non-believers, who say we are humanists, who say we are what, but these are only 2% in Mozambique. So the rest, of course, identify themselves as religious. And sometimes there's a conflict. Uganda, as a last case study on this area, Uganda itself has been passing bad laws based on Christianity. A country that was given Christianity in 1875 today has passed a legislation to kill gay people. Today, it passes laws to oppress women in the name of religion. Today, it passes laws to kill homosexuals in the name of religion. That is Uganda. The same thing has happened in Ghana. The same thing has happened in Ghana. Why? The religions are being used to divide the people in Africa. Look at Ethiopia. Ethiopia believing so much into their traditional religion, the Coptic and whatever. But in Ethiopia, actually, research shows that there's a lot of female genital mutilation going on. And actually, both Muslims and Christians support this practice. Now, we see that all these practices are bad. Look at Chad, for example. About 8% of people in Chad are practicing, of course, things to do with polygamy and other kind of practices. Of course, they are cultural and sometimes they are religious influenced kind of practices. But all in all, we see the harm done by religion in Africa in influencing laws, in influencing practices, in influencing hate among people. Let us look at other images by. Let's look at other images by. Very fast. Now, African democracy rating. This is also very interesting. In Africa, when you look at those maps right there, uh, in green, I show you countries with a bit of full democracy. Talk about Botswana, for example. But other countries have what we call flawed democracy. Uganda is among those countries. Flawed democracy, Zambia, and a bit of others. Flawed democracy. Hybrid regimes, where you find regimes are hybrid. We talk about, again, countries like Uganda. And of course, we talk about authoritarian regimes in Africa. And then we talk about failed states like Somalia. What is bringing all this? Because we adopted a system of governance we couldn't manage. Leaders are so selfish, they are so corrupt, and they are so much influenced by whoever colonized them. They are so much following what's happening in Britain, what's happening in France, what's happening in Belgium. Whoever colonized them, their eyes are always focused there. Now we end up copying sometimes bad systems that were left to us. And we forget using our own ways of administering and having better systems. Now, there's so much corruption in Africa. There's so much conflict in Africa, ethnic conflict in Africa, based on the regions, based on tribes, based on, of course, leadership, which is also very bad in Africa, the corruption, and of course, the relics that were left there. To be taught that you must be capitalistic, everyone must be doing whatever they can to get richer and richer. So these are models that were not exactly African. African was more of societal, was more of community. Now today we have capitalism because now people must be working all they can to make themselves richer and richer. Corruption becomes a problem. But when you trace it, all these things that were imposed on the societies of Africa as good examples, as good practices, today they have become wrong practices. Let us look at the last images by very fast. These are conflicts. Very fast by the images, let them move on very fast. These are conflicts. These are conflicts in Africa. People being cut, people being banned. Everywhere in Africa, I've summarized them. I've summarized conflicts Nigeria, Chad, Uganda, Congo, Somalia. I've summarized all these conflicts in those images. By move these conflicts. These are conflicts. Why? Sometimes they're fighting because of border. Sometimes they're fighting because of religion. Sometimes they're fighting because of bad governance, bad presidents. Because the system they are left, they were given to us, were not well appreciated by the people in Africa. They abuse this system. Look at Islam and how it is destroying Nigeria, how it is destroying Somalia, how it is destroying Chad, how it is destroying Cameroon and other countries, how it is destroying most of these countries where it was introduced and enforced on people. People kill each other in the name of Allah. People waste so much time in churches in Uganda. They have morning prayers, evening prayers, night prayers. They are always praying. Look at these images of two people here. Muhammad Bala, who was imprisoned 3 years now in prison because he dared to criticize Allah. Allah was simply introduced in Africa by the occupiers, the Arabs. Look at this other lady here. This lady here was killed in a mob at a university in Nigeria. She was killed and her body was burned. Why? Because she dared to criticize Allah. She dared to criticize Allah. Look at the abductions in Nigeria. They have been abducting people and sorting them in northern Nigeria simply because they are Christians. On the other image, you see a head shredded. That head is a person of a person who is gay, a gay man in Uganda, a friend of mine who was actually almost killed because of being gay. Now, who brought these confusions? The colonists told our people that being gay is actually bad, and they gave us laws against homosexuality. Now, people became so hateful over time. There was no hate in pre-colonial Africa. They were gay people, yes, but people could allow them to be. Today, we got laws that were given to us by those who colonized us, laws against homosexuality, laws that promoted homophobia. These are all colonial relics. We are killing each other in the name of Jesus, in the name of Allah. Africa is dying because of religion. So this is it for today. Linda Tilly, my friend, said, Nobody is coming to save you, to save Africa. Neither the West is going to come to save Africa. We can save ourselves, and we are each other's brothers. We are each other's keeper. That was Linda Terry, my friend. And Linda Terry also shared this, that people before profit. People before profit. We need to put people before profit if you're going to move Africa forward. Capitalism has destroyed Africa. We need to put people before profit. And Linda said, of course, I quote, stop allowing yourselves to be split by religion, race, tribe, gender orientation, country of origin, state, region, or province. We must stop dividing ourselves along these lines, because even when we had tribes, even when we had call it our religions, basically we were one people. If Africans can try to think about the dangers of colonialism, how they divided us, how they told us that certain tribes are better than other tribes because they are taller, because they are brown, because these are this, they brought divisions among our people, divided us, gave us the religions. Now we are killing each other. They demarcated our countries. Now we are fighting each other. We were one people. We are brothers and sisters. We need to go back to the drawing board and rediscover what was the initial Africa before the pyramids. Yes, we had our own wars. We had our own Mefekani wars. We had our own troubles. But how would we handle our troubles amicably? How can we go back to the drawing board and know that all of us need each other? And we can build Africa together, regardless of our religions, our tribes, our boundaries. We can be one and develop our continent, our world as a team. Thank you so much for watching. Keep sharing, keep subscribing, and of course, keep tuned to watch the next episode. See you in the next one.